behind the curtain.
Turn off the camera.
Okay, sorry, I'm quiet now. I'm quiet now. Elodie, the
How
stage
do
is
we
yours.
English it?
Thank you that you are here for us and spending your time on this Friday evening.
Well, yeah, thank you very much, and thank you, Christian, for the introduction. So, well, I'm really pleased to be here, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. The purpose of these Ultimate Learning Nugget today is not actually a real training. It's more like a big demo where I'm happy to introduce you to the training, to the actual training. And it's also a good occasion for us to share questions and to clear out things about what Epos and Iliad can do. So maybe a first introduction to myself, maybe, because my name is Elodie Moog, as you know. I've been working in the 2D animation industry for the last 15 years, and not as an animator, not as a director, or anyone important in the animation industry. I was just a tech sales agent for all these years, and I was a tech sales agent for animation solutions. And 4 years ago, in late 2018, I co-founded a company named Praxinos with other fellows, and I am its manager. And Praxinos is based in northeastern France, as you can see. So we're quite neighbors with Incas, actually. And so Praxinos, what is the purpose of Praxinos? We created the company with the idea of creating a 2D animation software powered by Unreal Engine. And to achieve this, we had to develop different elements. But first, let me introduce quickly to Unreal Engine, just in case you've been living under a rock for the past 10 years. So Unreal Engine, briefly, is a 3D real-time software, real-time meaning you don't have to wait for objects to be changed to see the final result immediately. You don't have to spend time with render farms and all these things, which is quite great. And this software was originally developed for video games by Epic Games. So if you're quite an old fart like me, you've probably been playing to Unreal Tournament. It was a game I really loved when I was young. And if you're a parent or if you're younger, you probably know about Fortnite, which is also done, made with Unreal Engine by Epic Games. But for the past 5-10 years, I would say, Unreal Engine and actually real-time software in general have been used more and more in other industries, including automotive, architecture, broadcast, and also audiovisual for TV series or for films. And one of the most well-known example for the past 2 years is The Mandalorian, a spin-off TV series from the Star Wars industry. So very quickly, a few examples of what you can do with Unreal Engine, or you can see in automotive. So here you can see the actual power of using a real-time software, because any change brought can be seen immediately. Here for automotive, moving my cursor here for architecture, and to build simulations of new places, new towns, new town centers, and all these things. Here it's also simulation for crowd, for instance. It's also very interesting to see how people can move. It's made with twin motion. Here with broadcast, where green screen can be turned into an actual 3D beautiful landscape. Here for the weather channel. And here the example, very interesting, that's actually how the Mandalorian was done, where you actually have a set with LED screens and you have an actual real camera connected to the virtual camera. And when you move these real camera, the 3D background behind will move to keep the parallax. And that's what makes things very real, despite it's been all done in 3D. But actually in Praxinos, we do none of this, because as I said, we are developing 2D tools for 2D artists. So for storyboard artists, for layout artists, for anyone who likes to illustrate and paint stuff, actually. And we've developed 2 plugins that are free on the marketplace, and these tools are named Iliad and Epos. So what's Iliad? Iliad is a plugin made to use blueprint brushes to edit texture 2D. And if you don't understand what blueprint are and what texture 2D are, that's okay. I'm going to show you this. And that's the demo part of use, of course. So here we have a tiny 3D environment, very simple, but actually I don't really care about the 3D environment right now because I'm about to create a new texture 2D right there. Just opening Iliad, create the texture, open it, and then we have Iliad interface. And what I have just opened is a texture 2D. That's the place where I'm about to draw stuff. I can use a color wheel to fill the area. I can choose different colors, change options like the zoom, change colors and all the things. You have a layer stack. It's an interface that is quite similar to any other painting software. The interest also of Iliad is the ability to use many brushes. We actually have 75 brushes by default in Iliad. Here, actually, I have much more because we also sell specific brush packs. But here, a few examples of what you can achieve in terms of brushes. These are the one included by default to make cartoon brush, or to make camouflage, or to make, I don't know, brittle. You have many different examples of brushes. Or if you want to, this is nice because it's a kind of a doctor writing simulator, if you know what I mean.
And I think if I have hooked up a tablet, I can also paint because it's just a mouse, right? It's using.
Oh, right now, yes, obviously I'm using a pen.
I see it. I see it. Okay. Yeah.
You can, most of brushes, actually all brushes works with a mouse, but in this case, you will lose the interest of having an actual drawing tablet because you can then connect your brush to a, how to say that, to the pressure, to have sensibility, I don't know, with the pen pressure, with its tilt, with the orientation, the azimuth, sorry, and all the things. And actually, I can show you very quickly how we can create a brush from scratch. That's actually how I can introduce you to the power of Blueprint. So let me show you very quickly. So I'm about to, first of all, go back here to the content browser. And I'm about to create another texture, but a small one, because I'm using it as a future stamp for my brush, and I'm going to be 64, about 64. I create the asset, I'm opening it, and I'm about to draw a tiny squiggle like this. Can save it, can close this one. Now I'm about to create a new brush, new Odyssey brush, save, here we go. But at this moment, nothing is working. I have to open this Odyssey brush to open its blueprint like this. And so that's actually one of the parts of the training, how we can build brush from scratch. So using Blueprint, it's a coding language. Using Blueprint is actually very easy if you already know Unreal Engine. It's actually also easy if you already coded something, if you have notions of coding languages. But if, like me, you don't have notion of coding languages, well, actually, it's not that complicated as well. If you understand the logical of how the brush is made, it's really easy to understand. The first step is to understand how you can actually, what will trigger the brush, because it's all about this, what triggers things. And in this case, it's going to be an event on step, because that's what is going to trigger the brush. The step being these movements you're going to do here on the tablet. Each time you are drawing on the canvas, you do a step, and that's this step that is going to trigger the brush. Okay, so we have the event. So now we need the stamp to be done, the brush to be done. So we're going to create something named stamp. Here is the node stamp that is going to contain all the details we have to know to create the brush. So the first one will be, for instance, the block being the pixel, the image itself we're going to use. So I'm going to create first something named a variable being something very specific that is very related to a blueprint. And in this case, it's going to be an image, the image I drew earlier with the little red squiggle, if you remember. So I'm going to create it like this. There we go. And I'm going to select now this texture like this. And I apply it. Then I just have to grab and drop it like this, and I can connect it to the block. So here I'm just telling, okay, I have this event that is going to trigger the brush, and this brush will contain this variable, which is made of this tiny red squiggle. But that's not all. I can also add coordinates for the Canva. Say I would like to use the coordinates X from the Canva, the coordinates Y from the Canva. I can save, I can actually compile it, and then we can use this brush. Here we go. I can then play with the step, because if the step is too small, it's just going to make a one big line. And if I increase the step, we're going to see a gap between each stamp like this, you see. And slowly you can build brushes like this.
We have to ask directly a question. And I'm with you, Holowitz. We see two cursors. Why do we see two cursors here in Zoom? It's like you like working two people on the same PC. Why? Is it because of your plugin, or is it because of Zoom? Because sometimes it like...
Oh, no, it's Zoom. It's definitely because of Zoom. No, I really have no issues drawing. There's no lag for me.
That's crazy.
On your side, there's a lag.
You are super fast sometimes.
Yeah, I said I was trying to not be too fast, but I can restrain myself. But maybe I have, just let me change just to check a few parameters, maybe because I have optimized, and in the end, it's not that optimized. So I will do without the optimization. Here we go. Is it better? No, it still seems to be very laggy. I think it's a Zoom thing, because I really have no issue on my side.
Okay, perfect.
You have to trust me, sorry.
No, we trust you. We trust you.
Yeah, and I don't know, because I realized that sometimes when I dropped the stylus, the cursor was still moving on the Zoom screen, not on my screen, but on the Zoom screen, because I have actually two computers running at the same time, and I can see myself in the other screen. Yeah. Sorry. Let's move on. So indeed, I was playing. I think you were also asking about the colors, right? No. Whatever. So actually, so here in the training, this is how we are about to learn how to, we can create a brush from scratch and understand the philosophy behind the brush engine in Iliad. So here we understood what a texture 2D is. This is this square we're actually goofing on. But this texture 2D can be used in many other I can see the Discord at the same time. So these textures can be used at the same time in other, how to say that, can be used in many other places in Unreal Engine, because textures 2D are usually used into materials, and materials are what define actors, 3D elements in the environment. So if I close this, I close that, and I look around this area, I can see a little bit here, this environment. We can see we have different spots right there. We have different elements right there. We have, for instance, a foliage. We have a decal with the sunflower. We have the wall. We have different elements. So for instance, yeah, I'm going to select this element. This is called a foliage. A foliage is a way to paint with 3D meshes to create one big mesh. It's really interesting when you want to paint with trees, with flowers, with elements from the background. Can be also used for any other kind of elements. It's really up to you. Here in this case is just a simple plane, and this plane uses a simple texture with this tiny ivy. So I'm going to edit this ivy. So it's selected right there, and I'm going to find the material not there. So I'm going to move it from the marketplace, the cousin brother, like this, So here is the texture that is assigned to, this is the texture assigned to the to the foliage here on the left. So if I do any change, like for instance, I take here, I grab a pen and do this, and I'm trying to paint tiny red flowers like this, is going to update in real time on the 3D, on the foliage in the 3D environment.
Wow, this is cool.
And if I do this, so I can have a better screen like this, much better. It's really, I'm just annoyed by the zoom with the videos, I'm just trying to make it smaller. Can I do it smaller? No, I'm gonna hide it. Yeah. Okay. And so obviously I can totally change this texture. I can totally add a new layer and say I would like to draw something else. I drew something, another IV there, and I'm going to play with this one, for instance. Or if it's too small, I'm going to make it bigger, like this, and then we can see the result right there. So that's one of the possible use of Iliad. It's to edit 3D objects like foliages. Then another example would be quite the same. It's the decals right there. Here we have the decal with the sunflower. Decals are very useful when you want to bring a change in the environment, like a stain, like a shot in the wall, for instance. Well, when you want to bring a change that is very not recurrent, it's not something that is going to be visible on all the same surfaces, because I could, for instance, paint on the wall, but if I do paint on the wall, it's going to change all the walls at the same time. Maybe it's not that something I want to do. Maybe I just want to draw a nice flower or do a stain or something. And in this case, I'm going to use a decal. And for the decal, I'm going to select it like this. Can I select the decal? No, it's selected the wall. So I'm going to go there. Oh, lower mail. There we go. And that's the same. Here again, we will play with all the different layers to change in real time what we're going to see on the left as a decal. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to use, for instance, a stain. And here I'm painting a stain. Well, here we can see the decal is not in the right sense. So I'm going to turn it. There we go. And I'm going to turn it. So it's going to be in the same, same direction. Seems to be the same direction. Oh, no, exactly. No, it's in this direction. There we go. And that way. Can you? Yeah, much better. So another possible use. I also explained we can also directly, I was forgetting another one, which is also very nice. It's about post-process. Post-process volumes in Unreal Engine are really nice when they exist. Oh yeah, here it is. Post-process volumes are really nice when you need to change the rendering of the scene. Here we have the volume, we have the post-process volume that was created. And actually when I entering this volume, we can see the change when it's going to happen on your screen. Yeah, here it is. So it's very static. It's supposed to be to be animated, but in your case, I think the image is quite still.
Oh, it's mysterious.
No, it's moving quite on my side.
Yeah, a little bit. It's very slow, but it's moving. Okay. So it's just a way to explain what you can do, what you can achieve with post-process. It's very nice when you use For instance, if you use texture 2D in a post-process, can be used to create a paper effect on your videos, for instance. And here again, we have the same behavior, meaning I can find the decal here in the content browser, and I can edit this texture. It's not the decal. Why are you finding me the decal? Because I didn't select the right one. Let me select the post-process volume. Yes, here we go. I'm going to use the material. And here we have the texture right there. And so here again, following the changes I'm going to do, I'm going to have something different here on the left. I'm just changing the opacity, for instance, of the texture. And I can also add again layers and paint on them if I want to.
That's cool.
And just to show you, because I'm kind of proud of what I've done for the Summer of Unreal, because it's actually how I met Christian and his fellows. It was during the Summer of Unreal from last year, and I was very happy to make this project. Which is going to take a little moment to load.
We see us in 5 hours compiling
shaders.
Oh,
compiling shaders. Okay, never mind. I'm going to do something else, and maybe it will pop up when it will be ready. That's okay. Okay. So another use of Iliad that is also possible, it's to directly paint on 3D objects, because so far we've been painting on the texture, but as a separated element. We had the texture editor on a side, and we had the 3D viewports visible on the other side. But we can actually do both at the same time. I mean, depending on certain meshes, for instance, this wall, I can select this wall and enable the Iliad mode in the viewport and say, I would like to paint directly on the wall like a true punk. And in this case, that's what I was explaining earlier with the decal. Since I'm editing this texture that is used on the wall for the whole environment, every change I brought here will affect all the walls at the same time. But that's also great if you need to very quickly change the whole appearance of the scene and play, I don't know, with multiply a little bit or another color like this. Can be really useful if you need to proceed with a few changes. So basically, that's what Iliad can be used for. It can be used for sketches, can be used to change details and props, in props and characters, can be used for foliages, for post-processes. I'm not showing it because it's not part of the training, but we can also use Iliad to make tiles for 2D games and flipbooks, which are a small animation, can be used to make 2D games. And obviously, we can also use Iliad for storyboarding purposes. Mentioning storyboard, we can now talk about Epos. So Epos is our second plugin that was released last year. Iliad was released 3 years ago. And it's a storyboard plugin. And it's a plugin whose the purpose is to manage the structure, the narrative structure of the storyboard, meaning you will manage both the cameras and the planes you are going to paint on. Those elements will be placed as actors in the 3D environment. And you will also manage shots and duration for these elements. And you also have the possibility to add keys to move different characters, different actors at the same time. All these elements are based also in the sequencer. And if you don't know what the sequencer is, then that's good because I'm going to teach you that. And obviously, when you combine Epos with Iliad, that's how you get 2D, 3D storyboards. There you go. So if you want to see the video without the lags, you can watch it on YouTube on our YouTube.
It was perfect
channel.
on my side.
Okay, great. So here to summarize, that's how actually EPOS will work. So you create a camera actor, you create a plane actor. The plane is placed in front of the camera actor, and these elements are managed through the sequencer as shots that we can see here at the bottom of the image. So yeah, enough theory, let's work with EPOS and understand how it works. So I'll close up Iliad because I don't need it. And okay, let's see how we can create a storyboard. Obviously, you need the plugin Iliad and EPOS to be enabled. And then you will click here on the tiny clap icon, not to create, to add a level sequence or a master sequence. If you're already familiar with the sequencer, you know what these features are for. But here we are going to click on Start Storyboarding right there. And we have this panel, can be quite scary, but actually it's very simple. In this panel, we are actually choosing the name of the storyboard. The place is going to be saved into the content brother, the content brother being this big library within an Unreal Engine project. And then you have all the naming convention where you can use the name of you can enter the name of the studio, the name of the license you're working on, the name of the production. If you're working on a TV series, you can activate the season and the episode you are working on. You can enter the name of the storyboard artist. And then you have different pattern for all the elements you're about to create, like shots, boards, planes, cameras, and all this stuff. But really, if you don't want to touch this because you don't know what it is for, that's okay. You can just click here on Create Storyboard, and don't worry, it's going to work as well. I'm going just to harvest and yeah, focus on this one. So here we have a few changes that appeared here in the interface. We have the sequencer just open, the sequencer being this kind of a big timeline where you are going to assemble sequences and actors being all the 3D elements in the viewport, in the 3D viewport. You're going to assemble all of these to create a series, to create a sequence. And I forgot to disable the autosave. That's okay. And just let me project autosave. It's supposed to be off, but sometimes it can back save. No, it's not in project settings. It's in editor preferences. Sorry for the. Yep, thank you. So we have the sequencer, which is kind of a big timeline where you're about to create the sequences. And right now we have to click on shot, new shot. And we're going to click here to create a new shot. We have this sequence that was just created. In this sequence, everything we're about to create here thanks to EPOS will either be saved as an actor in the 3D environment or as an asset into the content brother. Like this. So all the things created will be saved there. So now I just have to click there to create a camera. In this camera, I have many different options, like the size of the camera, the aperture, the focal length. We can choose a name to the plane. We can choose a name to the camera. We have margin, which are actually really useful when you need extra area beyond the camera view. And you have the height of the texture, because the width is automatically calculated depending on the size of the plane, which is calculated depending on the ratio of the camera. And we're going to click on create a new camera, and it's plane. And here we go. We have a camera, we have a plane. We can move like this in the environment to find the right spot to say, okay, I like this area. I would like to tell now a story in this spot. And in this case, now I just have to enable Iliad. And since my plane here is selected, I have the possibility to start drawing some characters and do the right there. I also have the possibility to add new layers. I could say I can enter this and make a size bigger and quickly paint within the character to say I would like this dude to be more detached from the background, because even if it's a low poly environment, it's great to see your character. You also have the possibility to create several drawings being like key poses to your storyboard. It's just to explain the actual action of the character. So for instance, I would like the character to say hello. So I'm going to add a new key, a new drawing like this. And I'm going to enable a light table because I'm going to say the character will be there and be up saying hi, like this, and just do this white blob. And I'm going to create a new layer and up draw again the character like this.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I know. I'm so talented with drawing right now. So here we go. We have these two drawings like this, and then we would say, for instance, the character is going to leave the scene and say, again, I can enable the light table and say, I would like the character to say, oh, there we go, up, it's moving up. Yeah, or full heads, that's okay. Yeah. Okay, so we have very simple storyboard just to explain a few things. Obviously, we have now the possibility to change also the duration for each drawing. We can lower the duration of a shot, because if it's too long, well, maybe it's not necessary. It remains 72 frames, maybe it can be smaller. And we have then the possibility to create a new shot in order to tell something else, like I would say I'd like to move. I go there here in the church. I say, okay, that's a good place. Let's create a new camera in its plane. It's going to automatically create the plane and the camera depending on where I am on the viewport. And again, so I can create a new key drawing there. I'm going just to make Sticksman to make it faster. Yeah, here we go. And I'm going to create another one just to say, okay, the character is moving there. Oh, there we go. And here that's interesting because I would expect my character to be actually behind the wall, because I would like it to be here on the pavement in front of the church. And actually it's, if I stop piloting the camera, if I disable it, we can see the plane is actually floating in the air like this. And that's okay, because we have a feature for that will, it is called the plane distance, which is very useful because it helps me to move a plane forward in order to place it in the right place. And the further it gets from the camera, the bigger it is, and the closer to the camera and the smaller it is. So actually for the camera view, it's not changing anything. The ratio remains the same. If you don't want this, you can also disable this option scale in order to really change, make it lower or bigger. But by default, it's going to always to respect the ratio and the camera view. What's interesting is the fact that you can create several planes within the same shot. So for instance, if you have several characters, it's much better to split, to create one plane for each character. So let's say I'm going to create a new plane like this, and this plane is going to be for another character. And I'm enabling Iliad, I'm painting in red. And I don't know, this character is going to be a cat. Yeah, up. Yeah, tiny cat doing stuff. Yeah, mustache, because if there's no mustache, it's not a cat. So here we have the tiny cat, is really cute. And we see we have different timing for the stickman in black. So it means I can create drawings, I can create keys independently of each character. So if I draw another key like this to say the cat is actually moving to the front, up there like this, I have different keys, just disable the light table. I have different keys, different timing for each plane. That's really interesting. I also have the possibility, for instance, to make camera move. So for instance, I could say I would like to make a camera move that will go to the right, for instance. I'm going to pilot the camera. I'm going to move the camera like this. And here you can see something interesting is the fact that when I'm moving the camera, the planes are attached to the camera. So they are going to move along with the camera. So if I don't want this, if, for instance, I would like only the cat to track the camera move and not the black stickman, I have to detach this plane from the camera. So I'm going to detach the plane with a guy like this. And now the guy will remain at the same spot and only the cat will track the camera move. I think someone had a question. I heard a noise. Okay, so
that's
just
the moment. That's the moment. No, we can come up with this. There is one question from a user called Diamond. Nice. I like to flip through drawings instead of light table. Is that possible? Is the question. And if Mr. or Mrs. Diamond just come up here in the Zoom chat and unmute yourself and just ask.
That's me. I was just asking whether you can flip through the drawings because I like an animator, like a 2D animator, because that's what I do, like rather than you know. Like
yeah, like using a kind of an out of pegs. You mean?
Like a like a 2D drawing we would flip through. I just flip through keys and go like a blank key.
Oh, sorry, that kind of flip. Yeah, like this. Yeah. You can use flips like this, or you can also use shortcuts to move from frame like this. I can enable it to a frame, and here, depending on what plane I have the focus on, it will move from keys to keys. So here I was moving on the keys on the stickman, and if I do it with the cat, it's going to do the same.
Okay, so you can set short keys. You can set short key. You can set shortcuts for like going to one
shortcuts
key.
or icons right there to move from keys to keys. And if you want to scrub like this, but through shortcuts, then you actually have a shortcuts that will help you to move from keys to keys, but I don't remember which one it is. I think that's don't remember which key I've assigned because I had to unassign one key to do something else. So yeah, you have the possibility to scrub using keys, or you can use it by hand like this.
Okay.
If it answered the question.
Yeah, those two buttons. I get it. Yep.
Okay.
I see.
I have a quick question regarding the plane distance.
Yep.
Is there because I saw you punching in numbers for the plane distance. Is there a slider that you can move that you can use?
Oh yeah, sure.
Punching numbers, you're not having to guess the numbers.
Oh yeah, sure. You can actually move, but in this case, it's going to depend a lot on how you want to work. Because, for instance, there are people who like to work with having two layouts where you will have two layouts from the same viewport, one with an external viewport and one with the camera view. That's a possibility. I don't really like this one because I think that's too overwhelming. You have too many viewports, so I prefer to work with a single one. But for instance, what you can do is to do that. You can change an option here named Game View, where you can actually see here the camera in front of the cat. And so you have the possibility to play here like this and see what it's going to do. So here you have the slider. You just have to click here in this area to see what's going to happen. And then you can even pin the camera view. So you can just enable again the camera view like this. And here you're going to see what's going on. This view can be changed in Unreal preferences, by the way. And as I said, there is also the possibility to use layouts like this, where you can define two different areas. Sorry, it's going to take a moment because for some reason Unreal want to put you with a wireframe. I don't know why it's the one by default. Going to be a cam view. It's going to be a game view here, right there. And can you change me right there? So for instance, I can have this one with the Allo Cinematic Control, which means that when I enable here the camera view, I can see the camera view. And here on the left, I'm going to see an external view mode where I can even enable the camera and say I would like the camera to be visible in the options like this. So here the camera is visible. So I have then the possibility to either move the camera like this, or I can, when I select the plane, I'm going to Storyboard viewport. Thank you. And it's annoying. That's up. There we go. Okay, thank you. There, and then I can select and I can play with the plane like this. And here we still have on the right, we still have the game view. We still have the camera view enabled, which means we can actually see what the camera is actually seeing, you see? So I can make sure on the left that I'm moving the plane at the right spot using the sliders. And on the right, I can check the camera view on the right. Can be also very useful. So that's a way to work. I don't really like this one because, as you can see, there are many options to do with the layouts, and I think it might be confusing, especially for beginners. But when you really know how it works, it's actually quite good. It's really up to you. It really depends on people. Another option that is also very interesting is when you select the camera, you can play also with the focal length, which means you can then play, for instance, if I'm using the no scale one, I'm going to change the focal length of the camera, which is acting kind of like a zoom. I mean, an actual zoom, not the software, obviously.
I do have a question about like scaling.
Yeah.
When you're, drawing something, can I take like a small selection of it and scale that portion up? Like if the
No,
scale was too small.
sadly, at that moment, that is not possible. We are actually working on this feature for a moment. We're actually working on the possibility to have vectors in Iliad. I don't know if it's going to happen because it's kind of long development. We have good sign that it's going to be working, but at the moment we are prioritizing another development we have at the moment, which is the 2D animation software we are working on, named Odyssey. And this one, yes, we will have all the vectors that will allow you to select part of a drawing to make it bigger, smaller, etc. At the moment, the only way to do so is by creating a brush that is going to use a part of the drawing and rescale it and move it. That's, to be honest with you, it's not the ideal way of working, especially when you're used to something like Toon Boom Storyboard Pro that already have all the options made for. And that's actually why our plugins are free, because we know there are still many things to be improved. And we're still really happy to make a custom development for studios if they need so. But basically, no, at the moment you can't do select to resize a part of a drawing. The other solution would be, if necessary, you also have the possibility to directly select a plane and say, I would like it to make bigger, for instance. And in this case, that's possible. They're going to directly change the drawing itself, the static mesh itself, and not just a part of the drawing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. There we go. Just thinking out, what can I explain more? Yes, okay, something else I also forgot to explain, because here right now we are working already with a 3D environment. We can be great because then you can place two cameras and get inspired by the 3D to have the perspective and everything, but maybe it's too overwhelming, especially if you're a storyboard artist who've been used to make rough storyboard with no background, with nothing inside, and you just want to focus on the drawing and that's all, that's also a possibility. You have the possibility to say, I don't want any of this. I don't want a 3D background because it's too much information for me. And in this case, I'm going to create a new level, a new empty level, the absolute void, like this. Again, I'm going to create a new storyboard, like this. And in this storyboard, I'm going to make a few changes, like I'm about to activate a background and say I would like the background to be white or whatever the color, but I would like the background to be there. And I would like the grid also to be there. White, up there we go. And we can create a new shot, we can create a new camera. Go, white background. And I'm even going to work unlit. So I have a pure white paper background, like I would do with any other software. And in this case, you can then, and again, enable Iliad, select the plane you want to work on, and you can work very roughly, like you would do with any other drawing software. And so you can create many shots like this, just to create a very quick, I would say a very quick rough storyboard where you don't really care about what's going on, their background. Do I have to move the camera? Do I have to make camera move? It's really not my job. I just want to make quick drawings like this up there. There we go. I've made another great storyboard. Yep, sorry.
I have a question.
Yep.
When you're working in this format, like you are working right now, is it possible to have a onion skin to see the previous drawing underneath or from the previous shot? Yes.
Yeah, you still have the drawing. Oh, onion skin will only work as long as you are on the same plane on the same shot. So if you create a new shot, you're not going to be able to see what was drawn on a separated shot, which is kind of logical because you're supposed to draw something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
You see, if I here I enable, you can see the cat right there. See, forgot to, didn't want to create a key. There we go. Enable Iliad and going to create cat stuff, and there we go. And so once you're done, once you created your storyboard like this, you have the possibility then to say, I would like the I would like, how to say that? I would like now to use, I would like to import a 3D level. And you have the possibility to do so. And that's something we're going to explain in the training. It's the ability to use a level to combine the empty level with your rough storyboard with an actual 3D background. To explain so it will be actually more visible, I'm going to lower the opacity right now and I'm going to use the option levels, and I'm going to add an existing level, and it's going to be going to be the same we used previously. So this one, I'm going to wait a few seconds. Here we go. And here we have the environment with the low poly we were using previously. And now, if I'm a storyboard artist, I'm just supposed to make the drawings and I don't want to care now about the camera and placing stuff and etc. Then I can move it to the layout artist or the previous artist. And now they can say, okay, now I can actually select my camera and say, I would like this camera to be moved and I would like the character to be there and stuff, and say, okay, it's nice, it's where it's going to happen. And then I move to the next shot and I do the same with this one. And this is the house, and that's where this scene is going to be placed. And by the way, since I'm a previous artist, I know very well camera stuff. So I'm going to play with camera options. For instance, I'm going to play with, what can I play with? I can play with the aperture, as I said, but I can also play with the focus. For instance, if I say I would like a smaller focus right there, make it very small and make it lit, and then I can play with the focus to change where I'm going to, what I'm going to see, you know. know if you see in my screen. That's the kind of thing you can actually do here with Epos, since we are piloting cameras that are the same cameras we have in Unreal Engine. And then comes the third way to work with Epos. It's when you work with a storyboard artist who really don't want to actually work on Unreal Engine, and that's totally fine. They prefer to work on Photoshop or Toon Boom or whatever. And but you still need the sequence to be imported then later in Unreal Engine. And in this case, you are going to import this image as a sequence, and it will be automatically turned into a storyboard. So I'm going to do this right there. Going to open this one. I think that my summer of Unreal doesn't want to show up. I'm going to close it and I try it later. There we go. So very, very simple environment. It's actually the very first environment I have done in Unreal Engine 4 years ago. So I'm going to click here and click on Import Image Sequence. I'm going to select the image sequence I want to use, which is a simple image right there, which corresponds to this one. I'm going to show you where is this image here, right there. It's a very simple image sequence with transparency, with tiny bears. And I'm just going to identify the pattern of this sequence right now. And just changing this for shots, changing this for panel. And yeah, here we go. We have the whole sequence, and I just have to create the storyboard. Wait a few seconds, and all the images has just been imported, and it created automatically a storyboard made of these drawings. And I have all the texture to this, all the assets, the material, the shots, and everything has been saved here into the content browser, which means that now I have then the possibility to, I can view is active. Okay. Again, I can enable the camera and say I would like to move all the images at the right spot, place them everywhere, anywhere I need, play with the focal length, play with keys and everything. So that's the kind of thing we're going to see in the training. We're going to see how to place cameras, how to play with all these photography nuances, like how to play with the focal length, how to play with also with the focus, how it can help to tell a story when you have the right angle and the right focus and focal aperture, sorry. And maybe just to conclude very quickly, because I see I'm speaking for almost 1 hour. It's not something
take your time, Elodie. Please don't rush. Take your time.
Oh,
I'm serious.
Okay. I just don't want to make people hungry or something. So this is not something I'm going to teach you, sorry, because it's not something, it's not the purpose actually of the training, but it's also something very interesting to know, especially when you're not familiar with Unreal Engine. It's the ability to, when you work in group, especially in your studio with many other people, the source control is a very interesting feature. It's a feature where you upload the whole project in a distant server like Perforce or GitHub, and each person can send updates and say what they've done, what changes they proceeded, and so anyone can check out and download these updates. And when you combine the source control with another feature named multi-user session, which is, you can see the name right there. When you combine both, it's really interesting. Let me explain. So the video is a little bit old because it was recorded with Unreal Engine 4.26, but yet the behavior is the same. So here with a colleague of mine, we're running a multi-user session through GitHub, by the way. And so we can see we are both in the same environment. And I'm actually sending through the server, I'm sending a new environment, a low poly environment with the storyboard. So I'm sending the changes, and my colleague here on the left is going to track and get these changes. So it takes a little moment to download. There it is. I opened the scene, the level with the storyboard and the cameras. My colleague is doing the same. And right now I have the possibility to, as I'm a previous artist, let's say, I'm playing with the shots and I'm moving them. So on the left, you are going to see the changes I'm bringing. I'm on the right, I'm changing, but on the left, you can see my colleague seeing me changing the position of the planes and the cameras. But my colleagues right now have nothing to do. So he's asking me, can you send me something I can work on? And say, okay, I'm sending you this level. I'm migrating a level with a whole gymnasium. So it's tracking the change, it's deleting the change. And now we're playing with two different levels. I am playing with a level with the storyboards, and I also have the level with the gymnasium. And every changes my colleague does on the left, I can see it in real time here on the right. So he's, for instance, adding a primitive shape like a square, and I'm going to see the square appearing here on the right, as I'm working. And that's also very interesting to have this, not as a everyday working tool, but for meetings when you want to try something, when you want to explain a concept. Sometimes it's much interesting, it's much more useful to work on the same playground and explain with drawing and explain with a few changes, rather than losing time writing emails and notification on Teams or whatever tool you use. So, do you have any questions for me? I would very happy to answer.
There are some questions, and I can. There's one from Grant again. You just come up and to the ask your sequencer question directly here in this call would be better. Nicer, not better. It would be nice.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find my Zoom. Elodie, the sequence, you were doing the sequence of your bear picnic, and you put it in, and I was wondering, because when you brought it in, it seemed like the sequencer knew where to cut.
Yeah, so that was impressive.
How did it know where to put the cuts in? Did you label them differently, or does it sort of know somehow?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understood the question. Can you repeat?
When you imported your bear picnic, it had different cuts here in the sequencer. How did it know that this was a different shot?
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, I gotcha. That's the way I've imported the sequence. So I'm going to typically this kind of thing that are really we focus a lot on the training. It's how we understand the pattern of the sequence. It's really important to have a right pattern, because here, if I watch the original image sequence, we have this pattern, which is sec for sequence. Then we have a number, a dash, and then we have img for image. And it's our job to say what corresponds to what. So the sec sequence corresponds to a shot, if I translate it into an epos language, and img correspond to a panel. Panel doesn't really have it's not really a thing in epos, because we don't really work as panels, since we work with multiplanes and drawings. But panel is a word that is very common for storyboard artists, and it just means these image that belongs to the same shot, to the same camera cut.
No, I understand. Okay. So I would have to make sure that my naming convention is following what epos can read.
Exactly. So here, for instance, with this sequence, here we have sequence 001 underscore image 001.png. We don't care about the PNG or JPEG or whatever. Then it will be translated for epos as sec, these mustache stuff, shots underscore imag mustache panel.
Brackets.
The brackets, thank you.
But I
But
like
like-
mustache. I will use it right now every time. It's mustache is perfect.
So you would need a PNG because you need an alpha, right? So
Oh,
Yeah.
not necessarily. It can be a JPEG, but if you have a flat image, then it's going to be tricky to place the image in the environment.
yeah.
So
Okay.
that's why it's better to work with a PNG.
Yeah. Okay.
To piggyback on that question,
Yep.
I know this is definitely the pattern that comes out by default, like out of the box. From like a TD perspective, is it something that I can kind of meddle with and change to fit, our studio's needs, sort of thing?
Actually, what matters the most is to how to say that when you import a sequence, when you export, you have much more options. When you import, the options you have are board, shot, panel, duration. Board is a container. It's what contains all the shots. It's like the big act in your movie, for instance. It can be the meeting, it can be the fight, it can be whatever. The board is the big cut in your scenario. Actually, here, all these sequences are shots and they are contained within the same board sequence, but I can create several boards. Then you have the shots. A shot is a camera cut. Then you have the panel, a panel being a step within the same shot. So for instance, here with this sequence, we have the rock, then the hands of the bear, which are on the rock, and then we have the bear that shows up like this. So we have these three panels, which are turned into drawings, into epos, and they're just like this. So these three panels, these three drawings belong to the same shot. And then you have the duration, which can be used, for instance, if you already have a timing set on your storyboard sequence. So if a drawing is supposed to be a panel, so it should be frame 0, then frame 12, and frame whatever, that's the pattern you're going to use. So that's the only, I wouldn't say power, but that's the only things you can do when you import an image. You can add more options at the moment.
Okay, that seems reasonable.
There is one question from James for for GitHub. So do you have to download the whole project again each time someone uploads a change?
Oh no, you don't have to upload the whole thing. That's the power of the source control. Since that's actually the power of an Unreal Engine. It's contrary to many other software. It's not one big project. It's a big project split into many different assets. Typically, if I open these project, for instance, we have a content, the folder content in my computer is the content browser in Unreal Engine. And within this content, you have all the different objects, all the different labeled assets, material, whatever, everything you've created is saved as an asset. So when you use the source control and you bring a change, you just send these U assets that have been added or modified. So you don't have to import the whole project all over again, just the elements that were changed. And that's actually, it's really interesting when you work with several levels, for instance, because for each level, the levels is when I was playing with the rough storyboard and I imported the low poly environment as a sub-level. And working with many sub-levels means you can have a level for lights, a level for this, a level for that, and you can combine all these levels. Or within the same storyboard, you can, for instance, switch from, I don't know, you're gonna tell a story that happens in the kitchen, and the next scene will happen in the train station. It's two different levels. You can easily switch from an environment to another one within the same storyboard, thanks to this feature. And having the source control in addition is very useful, because any change you will do to one of these levels will be tracked and will be easily updated. That's all.
Was this the correct answer for your question, James? He's typing. Yeah.
Okay, great.
100
But really,
points.
it's more like an introduction. This is really not a topic in the actual training session because it's quite more advanced. And just to teach that, it would take a whole day just to do so. And I could only do this for GitHub. I know Perforce is much more complex. It's really not my job to teach you that.
but I think the good part for this Learning Nugget is, Elodie, all your tools are free. You got
yes.
It was you was funded by an Epic Mega Grant. Right?
Yes.
Congratulations for this. So
thanks.
Everyone who wants to already try something, you can download it directly on the marketplace starting today. And this is the best part of his Learning Nuggets, that you can take something with you and use it directly.
I would just say we realized we have a few bugs on version 5.1. We're still working on the fix. 5.03 works great. That's actually the version I was using today. And we're also trying to proactively fix stuff for 5.2 in order to not having issue like the one we had with 5.1. But just so you know, if you have a few issues with 5.1, that's normal. We're fixing this. 5.03 works right. Things you need, by the way, if you want to follow the training, things that are really interesting is, first of all, make sure you have a good computer. But since we are working on a storyboard, we're working on drawing tools, it's not that necessary to have a very powerful computer. Just as long as you can install Unreal Engine and load low poly environments, that's okay. That would be much enough. You obviously need to install Unreal Engine. Ideally, I would advise you to have a Wacom tablet. You can have fun with a mouse, especially if you like to draw stickmen. But if you really want to enjoy the training, it's better to have a Wacom tablet. Regarding Chinese brands, it depends because the drivers can be quite broken depending on the brand. With Wacom tablets, we know it works fine. With Chinese brand, it really depends. You will also need a microphone because I really like to talk to people. I don't like to have a monologue and speak all alone. That's really sad.
Hello, test,
and obviously,
1, 2, 3.
Exactly. No, that's really, it's especially sad when you teach to young students, teenage or young adults, because they're very shy and you speak, and you say, I'm not a TikTok video. You can interact with me, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, let's talk.
I'm not a TikTok video. Okay, that's a good one.
And obviously you have to understand English with a French accent. And would be the end. Unless you have other questions, then I would be really happy to answer you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
they should have a board soundboard on Zoom so you can have different sounds ready to say applause or boo or stuff like this.
No. You can use the emojis here in Zoom. Like, let's see,
that's true.
There is clapping and there is all these nice stuff. So yeah, that's perfect. Thank you first, of course. Thank you, Elodie, for these nice. I would say it was more just a glimpse to the keyhole. We get a good feeling for the software. And the interesting part for me was when I saw it the first time. It's like, hey, that's super practical. It's super cool. And then I realized that this is not a standard tool in Unreal, right? It was a good fit. It was a good idea from you. It was a good idea from Praxinos to build these plug-in or add-on. I don't know. For me, it didn't really feel like only a plug-in. It feels like it's a whole new program. Going into Unreal Engine. That's super interesting, super cool.
Well, thank you very much for the team, because I'm just the nice girl who say good things about it, but the real magicians are my colleagues, and they never hear the actual compliments. So
no, really,
I feel like a fraud.
Especially for the people here who are maybe new in Unreal. this all these stuff here down there. Of course, it looks like a sequencer. Of course, everything it looks like a content browser. But in the end, you have all built up this by yourself, and this is impressive. This is really impressive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let me take over just short. Let me shortly take over the screen share for a minute, because yes, we have to share something. You are the host of the session, so you have to quit.
Oh yes, I have to stop it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I stop it.
It doesn't matter. And I will just come up with this one. So we have a 3-day course with you, Elodie. You are giving this training, right?
Yeah.
Tell us something. Of course, I will share this link in the Discord. And yes, you will get a 50% voucher for this course. This is awesome. This is really awesome. And say us something about these 3 days. What is the goal in the end? What do I archive in the end when I'm ready?
Sure. Yeah, the objective at the end is at least to understand the basics, to be able to create your storyboard. If depending also on the level of the people, because if I work with people who already are comfortable with Unreal Engine, then I know it's going to be great. We are going to have beginning storyboards at the end of the 3 days. If you are true beginners and you've never used Unreal Engine, as long as you are able to be able to draw, you are able to move the cameras, to understand these basics, and you tell me, okay, now I want to create something with your plugins, and maybe I send it in a few days later, I'll be really happy. That's the goal, to be able to understand the basics of the plugin and be able to work with them on your own. Okay.
And what is the question from my side? What is the reason why should I do my 2D storyboards directly in Unreal Engine? Why does it improve my, and I have to stop my screen share because I want to see all of you.
The pipeline,
Yeah, why does it improve my workflow? What is the key here in the end?
If you, to be fair, to be transparent, if you're just a storyboard artist and you don't plan to work in a production using Unreal Engine, obviously it makes no sense. You will definitely have more comfort with any other software. That's clear. What's interesting is when you're working in a production that is about to or is already working on Unreal Engine, because it's a step. It's not a step outside of Unreal. It's already a step within Unreal. So you can already think your environment. You can already think the camera moves and everything right at the earlier step. And for instance, that's something I cannot show at the moment because it's not done. There is a video, sadly it's in French, but I'll be happy to share it anyway in CAS Discord server. I don't know if there are subtitles, but we are teaming up with a French studio named Super Pro, who are working on a posing tool in Unreal Engine that would be also working with a pose. So you can definitely immediately have the 3D asset, the 3D characters in the environment and use them as a reference to prevent, sometimes you have great storyboards, they are really beautiful. And when you adapt these storyboards to the actual environment, to the actual characters, you have to redo everything from scratch, almost from scratch, because the layout and the scene won't suit what you draw. And having a storyboard tool directly in Unreal Engine will prevent this kind of issue. And having a posing tool in addition, a 3D posing tool, is going to make this step even easier.
Okay, interesting. Cool.
Can I add to that, where I find very often with people and like directors and whatnot, is they don't really know what to do with storyboards. They aren't used to seeing it, and so the more that you can get closer to what the shot will look like, the better it is for them. The more they can see it, and then the more they're able to give feedback. I find a lot of times where you get people who are not used to it, not used to seeing storyboards, so they don't really know what to do, and what happens is
that's true.
Yeah.
That's really true. Storyboard is something that is very easy to understand when you are a storyboard artist, when you are into the animation industry, especially. But for film directors, for people who are not used to this language of the storyboard, it's very cold. It's very simple. It's just characters doing this and that, and they have to understand that these simple drawings will be turned into actual characters moving with colors and everything. And as you say, Grant, it's true. As soon as you can have the environment and the closer you can be to the actual rendering, the easier it is for the film director to know what's going on.
Here we are. That's all. Elodie, you have the last words in this round. It's your session.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Incas, for organizing this. That was really awesome. Thank you, all of you, for being here. And if you have any question, you can ask on Incas server. Just think to tag me, because there are many people talking there. You can also, we also have many different social media. We also have a Discord. We have a website, which is just praxinos.com. We have a LinkedIn. We have everything. And well, see you around. I hope to have you in one of my trainings.